Coach Julia here. We're gonna do a little maintenance workout for your wrists and your elbows today. You need a band, a smaller plate. So without further ado, here we go. First thing I'm gonna start off with are some shoulder cars. Yes, I know, I told you wrists and elbows. We'll get there. This is gonna be super brief. We're not gonna talk really in depth about it. I want your arms out in front of you, a little wider than shoulder width apart, right? They're not super narrow, they're through here. And then I'm gonna focus on a few different movements, 4 of them to be specific, of my shoulder blades, my scapula. First is going to be elevation. So I'm gonna inhale, take my shoulder blades up, exhale, squeeze them back in together, that's a retraction. Inhale, pull those shoulder blades down, that's depression. Exhale, protract and bring them forward. Again, inhale up, exhale back, inhale down, exhale forward. And then you can change direction. Down and back, up and forward, down and forward. I don't want to see a whole lot of movement up and down in your hand. We're really going to try to isolate that and keep it in your shoulder blades. Next thing that I'm going to do is an elbow car. That's a controlled articular rotation. I'm going to use a little plate for this. You are welcome to do this body weight if that elbow just can't quite handle the load yet. So we're going to hold on to this. You're going to keep your elbow in close to your body, and I'm using my other arm to support the top of my arm so that I'm not swinging and rotating around from here. First thing I'm going to do is flex the elbow, so I'm going to close it and bring it towards me. Now I'm going to try to externally rotate as far as I can and really making that movement happen just from the lower part of the arm. Then I'm going to straighten my arm, and now I'm going to flip the palm back up towards the sky. So I close the joint, I externally rotate, I open the joint, I internally rotate again. And then same thing like we did with those scapular cars. With these, we can change the direction. Next thing I'm going to take you through is just a little bit of a wrist mobilization. We're going to try to load it in as many different directions as we can. So first thing we're going to start off with is palms forward. I'm in a quadruped, I'm in a kneeling position, and I'm just going to try to rock as far forward past my fingertips as I can. So I'm starting to load the front side of my hand. I want to feel this a little bit more in the pads of my knuckles as well as my fingertips, unloading the heel of my hand, and then back. Then you're going to do the same thing, turning the hands out to the side. You might feel this a little bit more towards the pinkies. That's okay. We're just trying to get as much flexion in that wrist as possible. You're going to flip this around, and now we're going to get a nice big stretch through your forearms, which is okay. And same thing, you want to start to sit back towards your fingers and then back off. I sit back, driving the heel of my hand as low to the ground as I can, and I come back. We're going to do the same stuff flipped. So now you're going to place the back of your hand down on the ground, and we're going to try to keep your elbows as straight as possible. This might be really tender, so you might start off here, not pushing a lot of weight onto it, and then as you get more mobile, you can start to load it a little bit more, just pushing more of my body weight on there. And just notice if there's a difference side to side. Here, I can do the same thing, pointing back. That might be a little bit more comfortable. I can even turn them out to the side. And I'm going to feel that stretch in different points of my forearm, and I'm going to get a little bit more range of motion through my wrists. The last thing I'm going to do is a little bit of flexion and extension through my wrist. And again, I'm going to do this loaded. You can definitely start off with body weight, especially if you notice that you don't get a whole lot of flexion in that wrist. Maybe you can only get to here, and eventually we want to try to get it as close to 90 degrees as you can, and maybe we start off a little bit lower. So from here, I'm going to hold my arm in place. I've got my plate. I'm going to work on some extension, bring it back, and some flexion going backwards. Come back up, nice and slow and controlled, really working through that full range of motion. Back. So that's going to strengthen my flexion and extension. I want to do the same thing with my inversion and eversion, my external and internal rotation. So same thing, I'm holding that bicep in close to my body, I'm stabilizing and supporting my forearm, and now I'm going to think lead in with the pinky, lead out with the thumb, without letting that forearm move. So I lead in, I lead out. And you might notice that one of them is super restricted. You can't just go as far on one side. That's okay. That's how we strengthen that range of motion. The last thing I'm going to do is just a little bit of eccentric work with my band. That's going to help strengthen a lot of the connective tissue in my elbows. So I'm going to step into my band. I'm going to grab it with an overhand grip. From here, I'm going to curl it back towards my shoulders, and as slowly as I can, keeping my elbows in close to my body, I'm going to slowly straighten my arms, slow, 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 and come right back up. Up, controlling that range of motion, really working through the elbow as much as possible. I want to go all the way up, all the way down. Then I'm going to flip that grip around, curl, more like a conventional bicep curl, and then same thing. Nice, slow, controlled deceleration down, fast up, slow, 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 keeping the elbow in close to the body, not letting my elbows swing backwards, right? Because then we get too much into the shoulder. Try those out. It's a good way to build conditioning and strength and range of motion, both in your elbows and your wrists, especially if you're doing things like the Olympic lifts. They tend to get a lot of wear and tear. So we want to start to be really mindful about maintaining our smaller joints. Boom, boom, boom. See you guys next time.